what had started to happen by that point was the penny started to drop, and I started to realize that some of the guys that have been bunking off with me and all of that were still doing their coursework later on. So I'm thinking, oh, we're all in it together. No, we're not. You're in it by yourself.
Every L podcast. Every L podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Matt Brown, and you're listening to the
Every L podcast.
Each episode, we'll have a different guest come on and talk about when life hands you an L, is it really a loss or is it something else?
Because not every L's a loss.
So sit back, relax, or do whatever you guys do to get comfortable as we get into this. Let's go. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Every L podcast, where every L is not a loss. And we explore that notion by having conversations with various guests on. Today we have R.P Falconer, who is an amazing individual who is, I can't even express how amazing he is. So I'm going to let him do it in a moment. But it's just one of those situations when you meet people in life that have accomplished things that you think, my gosh, I don't think I would ever be able to achieve it. When you have the chance to speak to them and ask them, what's happened behind the scenes? How was things growing up? What happened in your life that you thought was, wasn't great? But looking back in hindsight, you realize, wow, without that, I wouldn't have been here. You take that opportunity, and that's what I'm doing today. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Harpy to please come on and introduce yourself as you see fit and share what you want to. And then we'll get into the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for that generous introduction. My name is R.P Falconer. I am a father, brother, husband, author extraordinaire from London, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Much appreciated.
Do you like that?
I'm humbled. I'm humbled. I'm always happy to have guests on. To be fair, that's what this platform's all about. It isn't about me. It's just about the conversations. I think it's important that we share what we've gone through in life, because there's a lot of us, when we are down in the trenches and all we can see is darkness,
Yeah.
it's hard to remember there's actually a light source that's casting the shadow in the first instance. And when we're trying to look for the light, we sometimes give up and then we just stay in the darkness. But by hearing other people share their journeys from darkness to light, will hopefully then inspire them to know that nothing about your situation tells you that your now is going to be your forever. So
That's right.
I just think having someone as talented as yourself, so as dedicated to their craft as you, being able to share your journey, I think will just inspire others. And if it's not that, then obviously your children can listen to it, other people's children. But it's, whoever it is that listens to it, I just want them to have life restored into them. And yeah, I'm sorry. This is a passion project for me. This has been sitting on me for a couple of years now. So
Yeah, of course.
decided to do it, and yeah, I'm happy to have the guests that I do have on here. But let's jump into the L that you want to talk about. Let's get it up, and it is actually quite an interesting one because I can kind of resonate with it. I ain't gonna divulge too much because that's for another day. And you want to discuss failing all your GCSEs in high school, then going back to regain them. Now, can you just, before you go into that, for me, that just tells me you went to school, didn't really pay attention or apply yourself as you could have done, maybe. I don't know, got distracted. I'm cheating a little bit because I've read a bit of your story anyway, but it feels very reminiscent of something I've gone through. But then to be able to fail them, I'm really interested to know how you felt, because yes, I read the book, and for those that don't know, RP wrote a chapter in a book called Dad, which is self-publicated by Music Football Fatherhood, curated by Elliot Ray. Fantastic book, 20 different dads giving us different stories and accountability of how they entered fatherhood and what their journey's been thus far. And RP talks about his his journey growing up, but there's obviously some intimate details around this section which hasn't been covered. If anyone does want to buy that book, by the way, go to www.wearedad.co.uk, grab your copy. It's on Amazon, Waterstones, all them good bookshops, and some independent ones as well. If you're abroad, We Are Dad is definitely the best place to grab it because they can send it to you abroad. There's no excuse for you not to get it. However, returning back to this point, I would like to know a little bit more about how was your approach to school? Did you not find it interesting? What was the reason why you failed, in your opinion?
Um, School, like I spoke about in Dad. Um, my mother was very much work focused as opposed to academia focused. She was a good mum, and she worked all the hours she could, which was humanly possible. But when it came to things like homework and academia, it just wasn't her thing. So, I mean, the most she would ever ask me about is whether my homework was done. But she was so exhausted and tired. There's no way she was gonna kind of be spinning all the plates she was spinning and add that plate as well. She just kind of wanted to trust me with that. But I was too young to be trusted with my own education, like most children are. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I respected my mum, um, but there wasn't a force at home that was kind of like pushing for me to be academically great. Um, Not because she didn't care, it's because she just didn't. It wasn't her thing. So I think when you don't have that that let's say that force behind you, you're just a child. You're just gonna go and just do what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? So for me, school was like just a one big massive hangout place to go see my friends and chill out. And like I said in the book, I wasn't even a bad child. I wasn't a horrible child. I never like picked up chairs and chucked it across rooms. I had children like that in my class. Some of them my friends, but I was just more a yeah, I'm here, but I'm not gonna make noise, so you can just leave me alone. And the teacher kind of starts to get wind of the sort of character you are, and she's kind of just realizes that, oh, I'm not gonna just waste time with him individually, but I'm not gonna kick him out either because he's not actually causing a fracas or anything, fracas, whatever it is, like that. So yeah, back to the question. It's just more a case of knowing that there was no one that was going to really pull me up about my day-to-day education at home, except for Parents' Day when the shame is there, and coming from a Jamaican household, that's just not going to fly. But then it's just that maintenance, that day-to-day maintenance of education wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? And that's how that kind of happened.
So I found it quite interesting you saying that because there was a part you mentioned about that force. Because only now as a grown up, I would like to say there's a reason why I do what I do. Like this podcast I do is a passion project.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by amazing individuals, and thankfully you're one of them. And it's the
Thank
case
you.
that if you if you had people in your life, in your social circle, that was, oh mate, I need to get my grades done so I can
Yeah.
get there or I can do this.
Uh-huh.
Potentially, then you would have had the motivation to do it. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like like I've always said, if girls was a getting girls was a big focus of mine growing up, and I've always said to my wife, if girls' prime focus in a boy was them getting GCSEs and good grades, my God, I'd come out with A stars. Do you know what I mean? If it wasn't about
Wow.
the trainers you're wearing and all of that, nothing much has changed now. But if girls were to shift their focus away from the way somebody looked or behaved, and they said, you know what? Have you seen Brian? Brian's got like 5 A stars, and I would have been like, oh my God, I need to go and get 5 A stars. And that would have been a force that could have probably, massaged me into, being a bit more academic in school. So, yeah. So yeah, if there were other influences around me, I would have probably done better. Now I had it in me because I went back and got them. So it was always there. It was just somebody giving me a reason to do it for. Do you know? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
I get that. So when is it that you stopped really trying, or did you never really started? And by the way, for you listeners that are unfamiliar what GCSEs are, they are the qualification that we get when we go to high school over here, which is I think from age 11 to age 16. We take you in. We do mock exams when we're age 15. And then we do the actual exams when we turn 16, just before we decide whether we're going to go into further education or whatnot. But I believe in this day and age, you can't leave school until you turn 18 anyway. But yeah, just wanted to give that caveat for those of you that may not know what GCSEs are. What we got back then, and I say we because we're very similar age, we got letters. So like A, B, C, those are like the grading system. So the A's, A stars, they were the top rank. And then you go all the way down to U's, which is just anyhow you got a U, don't tell your mum because that'll your backside. Um, Definitely don't tell your dad if your dad's around because you ain't walking, you're waddling for the rest of the week. That's what I'm saying, right? But now they got a system where it's done in numbers, and the numbers don't make sense to me. I am not gonna front. I'm that old that I don't care. There's just some numbers. I think people got bored and thought, oh, let's make it different. No, you're dumb. But yeah, that was just me trying to clarify. Did you ever feel the desire to apply yourself, or was it from straight away going to secondary school? You was all about just doing you.
Um, it's so funny. I mean, at one point there was a teacher called Miss Sims, and she was from Antigua or something like that. And thank God for Miss Sims, because had it not been for her, I think at least 80% of the black boys in that school would have been kicked out. To be honest with you, and they would all have been me and my friends. But there was times where she kind of remember she was like a head school teacher. So it's not school just from RP. It's school for everybody. But there was times where she'd kind of home in on one or two individuals that she felt was falling off, and say, listen, you got to get yourself together. And you do well for a little bit, but she can't keep that fire underneath you like how your parents should be, or your older siblings should be, or whatever. So there were times where, especially when you first start, yeah, you are tuned in and you are thinking, yeah, let's see what this is all about. And then gradually you meet like-minded people like yourself, the bunkers, the troublemakers, the guys that are just coming to school to do the stuff you're doing. And it's just easy. It's always easier to not do the right thing in it, no matter what you're doing. It's always easier to just do what you're not supposed to do, because work is hard, but the results are great. You know what I'm saying? But it's always easier to just say, you know what, sod that, I'm not going to school. So yeah, what happened was, you kind of get on track, and then you start meeting people that are like-minded, and that force starts to become greater than the force that keeps you in class. And then thus leaving school with no GCSEs.
Was there any classes or lessons in particular that you actually enjoyed and actually did put effort towards?
Yeah, I did actually. Spanish.
Okay.
I like Spanish. And I think that was down to the teacher. She was really good. And I don't know. I don't know. I think she just kind of the way she taught Spanish was, it appealed to me. And the thought, I think the idea of knowing another language really resonated with me, and I was just like, yeah, I like this. Um, so yeah, I'd always turn up for that class because I enjoyed that one.
So was that the only class then that was doing it for you? Not even English?
Nah, not interested. I was not interested in English at all. It was just Spanish. I'd be consistent with Spanish, and the rest of them, pick it out of a hat and see what happens. That was
Wow.
literally it.
To be fair, I'm
Yeah.
starting to think the only reason you went to speak Spanish is because you just wanted to get some ladies.
No, do you know what it is? I'm thinking now, maybe because my name was Ronaldo,
Yeah.
and then she was fascinated with my name being Ronaldo. This is before, Ronaldo was who. Well, that was old school Ronaldo anyway.
R9.
R9, right, the original and the best.
Ooh,
But mine is spelled
controversial.
absent. Come on, man. Come on, you know it. You know it. You watched. We all watched those World Cups, and there was
I
nobody
know,
like
but then
that.
how many goals has he scored though? Come on.
Came away with the
Over.
medals, mate. How many World Cups is CR7? How many? You know what I mean? How
I
many?
know, but then his trophy cabinet is quite stacked. Let's be honest. He's got a
R9 was
monster haul.
injured, and he had a little issue with the old donuts.
Yeah, and this one hasn't ever.
He
This
had a
one's
little
solid,
sweet
sir.
tooth. R9 had
Yeah,
a little bit of a sweet tooth. It's all right,
and this CR7 as is disciplined as anything.
as
Like
ever.
this guy just feels like a machine. Like that is like going back to what you said about it's easy to do the wrong thing.
Yeah,
He is the epitome of like, how do you stay so disciplined and
ridiculous.
stay?
It's sickening, isn't it?
You look at him, what is he? He's 36, 37?
Yeah,
And you look at him, he's chiseled, he looks after himself, he still puts a shift in, and he still produces. And you're thinking, wow, if that's what you can achieve by putting in work, it might be worthwhile. Like you said,
yeah.
hard work is hard, but the rewards are great.
That's it. Simple as that.
But I think if you don't have people like that in your life to look to,
Yeah,
it can be very murky in terms of what your future would look like or what the outcome would be or the results would be. You're just going to think you're going to get jeered by your peers and just mocked.
yeah,
And it's like, well, why did I go without this sudden, this instantaneous gratification I'll get from the endorphins coming through from doing whatever it was
yeah,
to get ridiculed by my peers? I don't see the benefit of that. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to get street cred.
yeah. That's the thing as well. I mean, it's fun being on. Listen, a lot of these guys who sell drugs and stuff and all of that. I was never a drug dealer or anything like that. But I did have my time where I was involved in things, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to just do what you want because children, you think that's good for you. Well, you don't even think about that. You just do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And it's fun for people to look at you in a certain way. It's fun for girls to gravitate to you. It's fun for you to be seen with certain people. It's attractive if you don't have that foundation at home, which lets you know that yeah, it might look good now, but later on down the line, you are going to suffer.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I've got a son now. He wouldn't even dream of doing half the things I've done because I've done certain things, and now I know that I have to be that force that's at home. Me and my wife have to be that force that I never had.
Yeah. Do you think part of the reason why when you was hanging out with those groups of people, it was so invigorating is because every other path you could have gone down, your mum's well and truly documented what you should do, what it looks like, and so forth. Whereas you hanging out with these group of people was going off the grid. It was like instead of playing a game and sticking to the linear path that you're meant to be going on, you've gone off the grid and you're able to do whatever you want to do, and the story can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I always straddled that line very closely. Um, I have family members that are really criminals, like real criminals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've always straddled that line between what my mother's wanted me to do and the effects of being in an area that I come from and having people around me that are not like me. I'm not a hardened criminal, do you know what I mean? Um, but I've been and grown around people who are really, this is their life, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was always going to go that way in a sense. There's no one that can come off Church Road Estate or Stonebridge Estate or Broadwater Farm that doesn't get touched in some way by that area, no matter what your mum says or does. Whether you are a victim, you're still getting touched by it, and that can manifest in you and make you do things later on in life that you probably wouldn't have done had you grown up somewhere with real prospects. Or you could be the aggressor, and that affects you as well. Or you could be that person, that's me, who's straddling two lanes, who's not a terrible person, but sometimes you delve into those dark spaces as well, you know.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it wasn't like a, well, I'm just gonna go and defy my mum or whatever and that. It was a case of, it's just the way it was, sort of thing. I can't even explain it. It's just the way it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because she did, her force for education, like I said before, wasn't strong enough for me. Had she, for instance, had she said, I'm getting you a tutor, I'm getting you a maths tutor, English tutor, science tutor. Now I'm looking at her like, wow, this woman's, she's actually really, really serious about me doing this thing. And listen, I'm not saying she wasn't serious about me being serious in my life in terms of my academia. She just didn't know about the system. And she was spinning so many plates. She's a single mother with two kids on an estate, working two jobs. She's spinning loads of plates. She just doesn't have time for me to take up any more of her time. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. Yeah. I think I've gone off on a tangent there.
No, and
Sorry, Matt.
not at all. No apologies needed. And I think that's we need to explore these. It's good to have conversation around what's going on in your head, especially when you look back at things in hindsight. Because at the time, you're just in the moment. You're just going through what you're going through. You're feeling what you're feeling. It's healthy to do that.
Yeah.
Looking back in hindsight, you can then see it and probably better articulate how you see things now and the things that you felt that you missed or would have required to be in a different situation or have a different outcome.
Yeah.
But if we go forward through that and you then was getting to the point where you was going to do your mock exams.
Right.
So this is before it hits the fan and it's real and it's it's forever solidified as these are the grades that are yours. You're doing your mock.
Yeah.
These are the mocks. These are the preliminaries. This is where it's a matter of you get your chance to showcase where you're at. Are you going to get a podium finish or are you just bringing in the rear?
Right.
How did you do on those?
Matt, I don't even recall doing my mock exams.
Wow, it was like that.
I don't think I even turned up for them. Do you know what? It was so weird because even coursework, I didn't even know what coursework was. Because I'd literally be out of the class for like weeks on end and then come back in and be like, okay, hand back your coursework. Hand in your coursework. I'm like, what's that? Listen, when I say I was disconnected from school, I mean I was disconnected. It was a place where I went to meet my friends, and then from there, whoever was on bunking that day, I was off with them,
Yeah.
and that was it. That was literally it. So I don't even recall doing my mock exams. I don't recall doing. I didn't even do any coursework, which was comical because I still turned up on the grades day, expecting to have a grade. This is how disillusioned I was. I still turn up thinking, well, what grade am I gonna get? Thinking that someone's just gonna provide me a grade. This was my attitude in life at 15, 16 years old.
When you didn't do the mocks, as far as you could recall, did it not go back to your mum to say, yo, RP didn't get a grade because he's been absent?
Mate, I don't think she wouldn't even know what a mock exam was, mate.
Wow, okay. It's like that. Fair enough.
I'm telling you, man. It was a recipe for disaster. Her thing was, you need to work. I work, and I'm showing you what you need to be doing in life. Her thing wasn't, you need to work in school. It was, you need to work.
Yeah.
Find a good job and work, and that's it.
So I say you've done. You've breezed past your mock exam period. Coursework, not a thing.
Nothing.
All you do, you hit up your school, meet your people, you bounce.
Yep.
You do it again the following day, the following week,
right.
the following month, the next week.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Turned up to every single one of my exams. Exactly. I've turned up and I'm looking at these. You might as well just written those papers in Dutch. I'm serious. I'm looking at these papers. I'm like, literally when I'm walking into those classes, teachers are literally like rolling their eyes, like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Wow.
Because it's ridiculous. Like, why have you come? Even if I was to even if I was to ace that whole exam, I'm still getting an E because the coursework hasn't been done.
Yeah.
You know how it works. Like, it's a combination of yearly over a course of a year learning and providing and showing,
Yeah.
coupled with the final exam, and it all amalgamates to create one grade.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're looking at me like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm taking my GCSEs." What do you mean? And when I look back, it's cringy
Yeah.
because it's silly. It's just silly because I had it in me, and I just didn't have it in me at that time.
Yeah. So when you looked at those papers and like you rocked up fully, I'm doing this. Was there a part of you that at least at that point that you resented that you didn't even try in classes?
I tried though. I went in the exam and actually tried. I'm
Yeah, but
talking head scratching, everything, full 3 hours.
yeah, but
Everybody
I'm saying
left.
but I'm saying when you read the questions and
Yeah,
other people were able to get on with it, was there a
yeah,
part of you that that point that you felt like, man, if I just went to like a few of the lessons, at least I'd know how to start answering this?
absolutely, absolutely. Because what had started to happen by that point was the penny started to drop, and I started to realize that some of the guys that have been bunking off with me and all of that were still doing their coursework later on. So I'm thinking, oh, we're all in it together. No, we're not. You're in it by yourself. I'm still getting the GCSE. I can, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to realize, hold on, man, I've been had. Because I thought we are all going to be messed up together after this situation. But no, people still had, other boys still had a modicum of, no, I've still got to get something out of this for my mum. Well, I didn't have that. So when I say, I think if you go back to that year in school, I think I must have, bar the people who were probably like refugees who couldn't speak English, I think I probably done worse than them.
To be fair, they probably had a translated form over your one. So not to make you feel worse.
No disrespect to anyone, any refugees or anything like that.
I'm just saying if they had a translated version of it, then they might still say, "Oh, I understand that now." Whereas if
Yeah,
because you've just been absent the whole time,
yeah,
you're just thinking, "This is a hieroglyph to me right now." Like really.
yeah. I had no idea. I was just sat there.
So you've gone through the painstaking 3 hours multiple times because there's multiple lessons that you would have.
Loads of times.
Yeah. So what is it? 11?
What it is, Matt, you gotta understand is that the gang is now doing their GCSEs, and I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not gallivanting by myself, so now I need to be able to get the gangs doing GCSEs. So I'm gonna be doing GCSEs too,
Yeah.
which makes no sense.
You do it. I'll do it. We do it.
Yeah, we're all in it together, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
We weren't all in it together because I was the odd one out, and I left it. Them guys still got something, C here and D there. I left with absolutely nothing at all.
So what grades did you finish on then? If you don't mind me sharing.
I think I got a few G's. I think you get that for just writing the name, innit? My
I
name,
wish
written
I could
date.
tell you.
I know I got a few U's, unclassified. Just they must have thought this guy. When I think back, they must have thought, who is this person? Because, like I said, I wasn't a rude child. I wasn't, as we say in Jamaican language, patois, a feisty child. You understand?
Yeah.
I was either absent or present but absent. I wasn't disrupting the class. I wasn't making a fuss, and I think that's the only reason why I actually made it through to the last year of school, even though I wasn't actually doing anything because I wasn't actually causing them any grief. So they thought, well, at least if he's got something to come to every day, he's not out there all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've gone off on a tangent. What was it again?
I was happy to let you finish the thought.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just a case of I left there with just G's and U's, nothing, man, nothing at all.
So when you finished with those grades, well, no, obviously you didn't know it's great. You finished your exams, right?
Yeah.
3 hours an exam, approximately done 11 times over the different classes you had to do.
Yeah.
You've now got that little summer break. Well, it's a couple months. What is it? From June,
Yes.
July, August, end of August rolls round.
Yeah.
You go get your grades. How are you feeling at that point?
I'm going to get my grades, and I'm thinking I'm going to get something. This is how delusional I was.
Is your mum with you?
No, my mum was at work. So 18 bus, Harrow Road, due for Paddington, got off the bus, you in your own clothes them times there. Rocked up, and this point, what I'm about to tell you now is probably one of the most important points in my life in terms of understanding how important it is to work when you need to and get your head down.
Yeah.
So got off the bus, all of our grades are plastered on this massive board outside the school gate. And I got up there, and this one girl stood there, and her name is Patricia. Patricia, if you ever hear this, thank you. So I walk up to her, and she's in tears. She's crying, and I look at my grades, and I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked. Wow, how can I be getting the U's and G's and all that? So I've looked across to her grades, and she's got like B's and A's and stuff. So I put my arm around her. I said, P, what's wrong with you, man? Why are you crying for? I said, your grades are brilliant. They're good enough. She turned to me. This is a 16-year-old girl. She turned to me and said, no, Renaldo. Those grades are good enough for people like you. And that cut me like a knife. That cut through my soul, man. Like, you know when somebody says you have that moment of clarity?
Yep.
And it's just like, what the hell have I done to my life? It's just that moment of absolute clarity. And I remember thinking to myself, everybody's being cast and whatnot, but her honest take on what she thought of somebody like me, that went through me, man. And I was like, whoa. And it's at that point I learned about standards, with like self standards in terms of your academia. You know, someone like her who's getting A's and B's is not satisfied because that wasn't good enough for her. She wants to be a doctor. She wants to go on to do this and that. She has high aspirations for herself. And I'm there with my U's and my G's, and I'm thinking to myself, this can't get any worse. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment for me.
And then mum's reaction when she saw the grades?
So after I've collected my grades, I didn't even hang around to see anybody else. I just started walking back home, and I think I walked all the way home with just me and my thoughts. And I thought, wow, I've got to do something about this. Got home, mum's like, what did you get? What grade did you get? You know, where's the paper? Where's the sheet? Because all of her friends are calling each other saying, oh, you know, Jerome's got this and Matthew's got that. And then you know how it is with mums.
Yeah.
She's like, what did you get? What did you get? Sort of thing. So I've reluctantly pulled out this sheet, given it to her. She's taken about 5 minutes to look into it, and she's saying, you know, this can't be right. This can't be right. What's going on here? Sort of thing. And I'm like, it is what it is. I've never heard my mum cry like that in my life. Never, I swear to you. I've never heard my mum cry like that. And I've seen my mum cry before. That cry was from her soul. It's from the pit of her stomach. And it was a cry of regret.
Yeah.
You know, it was a cry of absolute regret. She just said, go to your room. I'll come and see you soon. At that point, I'm too big to be beaten. That's happened already. You know what I mean? This wasn't about that. This was a beating. Is like once you beat the child. Not that we do that nowadays, but you know how it was back in the day. That means what you've done has been atoned for. At the end of that beating, this was long. My mum's basically looked 30 years into the future and said, my son isn't going to amount to anything. You know what I mean? And that's where that pain has come from. Me now being a father, knowing that if I think about my children bringing me those sorts of grades, I'd be worried as well. And I think this came from a place of worry. So yeah, I've been sent upstairs, and yeah, I hear her on the phone talking to my auntie, and I just knew. I said, "Wow, I'm in some deep, deep trouble here, man." And that was basically her reaction. The next day, no, about 2 hours later, 3 hours later, she's come upstairs. She said, "You got three options. You either go back and get your GCSEs, go and find a job, or get out of my house because you're not going to turn into a drug dealer under this roof." And needless to say, I said, "You know what? I'm going to go back and get my GCSEs." And that was her complete reaction, basically, and conclusion to that.
That is heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that, because I can only imagine how heavy that was.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you heard your mum cry like that from the soul? And as you articulated it, being from her soul.
Yeah. That was hard, man. That was hard. That was tough. That was tough, man. I mean, to know that you are the catalyst for that. You know what I mean? To inflict that level of pain on somebody who's put their trust in you, but who shouldn't really have put their trust in you anyway, when you really think about it, to do the right thing. Somebody who just said all they've ever said is just go to school, do well, and you ain't got to worry about any money, anything you need, I'll get it for you. Um, Somebody whose requests were basically for you to just do good for yourself, and you turn around and provide those sorts of grades. That was hurtful for me, man. That was very hurtful for me.
So now that's happened, mum's giving you an ultimatum. You decide you're going to go back and get your grades.
Yeah.
Was that moment the force that you required to then succeed?
Oh yeah. That was like chucking a match on a barrel of petrol. I'd never, like I said, that the whole clarity thing had started from Patricia. Coming home to my mum and getting that reaction there was the icing on the cake. The thing is, she'd normally scream, shout, and carry on. The way she said that, gave me those three options, was so cold and deadpan. I like. There's a saying that I've learned recently, and it says, "A person that leaves an argument in anger will always return, but a person that leaves an argument with a smile will never come back."
Yeah.
She wasn't displaying any signs of anger. She was tired. She was just tired. And when a person gets tired, you need to be careful, because they really mean what they say they're gonna do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what she was showing me. She was showing me that face. It was like, I'm prepared to put you out if I have to. Because what happens to boys like me, normally what normally happens to boys like me is I go to a PRU, like, you know what a PRU is.
Nope.
So basically that's a school for like delinquent kids.
Ah.
I shouldn't have even got to the end of my year and done my GCSEs, because halfway through my school career I should have gone to a PRU for children that are just not meeting the standards of the school.
Yeah.
But because of Miss Sims, she knows what happens to boys that go into PRUs. They meet other boys that are even worse than them, and then they become worse than them. So her objective was, at least if he's not going to learn, keep him in a normal school. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was the point I was trying to make? Sorry, Matt. I go off on tangent, come back. I'm a better writer than I'm a talker, man.
That's fine. It was talking about the driving force. Obviously, after your mum was doing that, did that give you the force that you required to go out and achieve what you could? What I would actually ask you is, from what you told me, it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like mum was upset because you had the control of your own future
That's right.
and you threw it away. You just
Yeah.
went full cruise control, didn't care. Patricia was aware
Yep.
from earlier on
Hmm.
that she had control over her future,
Yeah.
hence why she was so upset.
That's right.
Do you think that you just wasn't aware that you had the control in your life at a younger age
100%.
until after you went through this process in life, and then you thought, oh, okay, I can do this? Because how did it go with when you did do it and you were succeeding? How did you feel about getting the good grades that you was getting, thinking you could have potentially done this the first time round?
Mate, that was like breathing after holding your breath. That's how it felt to me. It was a deep breath after not being able to breathe. So if somebody holds you underwater, or somebody says hold your breath for as long as you can, and then you release it and then you start to breathe again. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
I felt alive. Like when I finally went back to college, which we're jumping a bit, but when I finally left, I went to Maida Vale College in Westminster, and that was a phenomenal feeling. Being able to finally show my mum, I'm not stupid. It's just didn't have the force behind me, in front or beside me. I was just left in control of my own destiny as a child, and I shouldn't have been. No child should be left in control of their own destiny.
So at that point, what would you say that you got from that experience? If you're saying that the L that you experienced was failing your GCSEs, what did you get from that? Why is that not a loss in this instance? What was it?
Because it shaped the way I look at my life today, the way I approach things in my life today. It's not about, for instance, my son plays football, and I say, you don't lose, man. You just learn. You don't lose in life, man.
Yeah.
You can't lose until you're dead. You just learn. You take the lesson, you say, right, that didn't go well. What have I learned from it, and how can I avoid doing it again? So I just applied those rules from there. At the time, I didn't know the saying, but that's pretty much how I felt. Like, I've learned from that, and I'm gonna come back even stronger, and that's what I did. I went to Maida Vale College, and it was funny because I went to Maida Vale College um, with my NRA folder. Do you know what that is?
No.
Right. Okay. So NRA folder was like a burgundy folder that you used to carry around with you to like job interviews and whatnot,
Okay.
and other places of education to show you what you'd achieved in school.
Okay.
So mine was just pure blank pages. You know what I mean? I think I have my 10
Oh.
meters swimming certificate in there. I
I've
think
done my length. I've done my
that
width.
was that was
Here's my cycling proficiency test.
that's all I had to show from primary school right up to secondary school. But anyway, so I've gone to Maida Vale College, and there's a guy there called Michael. He was a course coordinator, is it? I'm not coordinator or administrator or whatever it was. Anyway, so he was sat at one of the desks, and I've gone there and I've said, "Listen, I want to retake my GCSEs." He said, "Right, cool. Show us your grades." No, first of all, I went back to high school and I said, "I want to go to sixth form and retake GCSEs." Laughed me out the door. He said, "There's no way you're coming back. We just got rid of you. We're not gonna let you back in here." Mr. Morton, he wasn't having any of it. So anyway, so I've gone to Maida Vale College after that, and rocked up there, and I've said to him, "Listen, I need to retake my GCSEs." And he said, "Well, give us your grades now." I said, I showed him my grades, and he's like, "There's no way we can allow you to do it." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because you need 4 Ds at least to retake." So I'm like, "That's ridiculous." I'm like, "Come on, man, you can't tell me at 16 years old my life is over. I can't get GCSEs now." He's like, "Yeah, but there's other things you can do. You can do GMVQ." I was like, "Nah, I'm not having that. I'm not having that. I'm not doing GMVQ. I'm not doing no BTEC nonsense. I want my GCSEs." In actual fact, my mum wanted those GCSEs, and I'm getting it. That's the attitude I had. So I went home that day. I was in my bed, and I said, "Nah, I'm not having it." And I wanted to go to Maida Vale College because it was a very, very good college. Went back the next day, approached Michael again. I said, "Listen, there's got to be another way that I can, retake my GCSEs. There's got to be another way." He said, "Renaldo, listen, mate, you cannot retake with 4 Ds. I can give you a perspective, and you can go and see the courses you can do." So anyway, went home again, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to consider these GMVQs and all of this because yada yada yada. Remember, all my mum knows about GCSE. So if I start giving her GMVQ, BNVQ, she's gonna think, "What kind of foolishness is this bringing me? There's some stuff."
That's not what I sent you out to go and get.
I never
Yeah.
sent you to go there. I sent you to go get your GCSEs. So I said, "Nah, mate." Going back again, third day lucky. I said, God loves a trier. Gone back down to Maidaville College again. When I walked into that hall, Michael looked across and he burst out laughing. He just burst out laughing. He said, "Come here." I goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want to take my GCSEs again. I'm not going to take no for an answer." And he said, "Goes, you are persistent." I said, I know. This is the conversation we had. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I said, "I know, and I want my GCSEs, and I need them. My mum needs them." And when I said that to him, he just looked at me and he said, "Are you willing to work hard?" I said, "I'm willing to work hard, man." I said, "I'm sure. I'm telling you." He goes, "Because those grades," he goes, "those grades are normally, we just wouldn't even fart on them grades." And I was like, "Listen, mate, there must be another way." He goes, "Let me think about it and I'll get back to you." He's gone away, asked another teacher, and apparently there are entry exams that you can take to see whether you just had a very bad school career, but you still had the ability to do the GCSEs. So it was an exam in maths and it was an exam in English. He said, "If you pass these two exams, I'll put you back on. I'll put you in the retakes for GCSEs." So I was like, "All right, cool." Done the maths. I was never good at maths, and to this day I believe I failed that. I believe I failed that maths exam. I honestly believe I failed that exam, the entry exam. English, could have passed it. I'm not too sure. But anyway, he's come up to me and I've taken the exam the next day, and he said, "Right, you've passed." Didn't give me any paperwork though. When I think about it now, didn't give me any paperwork. So I think he's just passed me anyway. 'Cause he's had a heart. Do you know what I mean? Big respect to him for that. Enough respect to him for that. Anyway, so I've gone on to do my GCSEs, and I've got a C in English Lit, a C in English Language, a C in English Literature, B in Sociology, a D in History, and a D in Maths. So I had it all along. I had it. It was just that force wasn't there. But my mum's pain became my force, my driving force. Her pain became my driving force. From and that's how it went down. And from there, I went on to college, uh, studied media tech there, and then it was like, why not university? I went to King's University after that, and completed a BSc in media technology there as well. So like I said, my story. I'd like to think is quite unique in a certain way, because I've kind of come all the way from potentially going out into the road and really pulled it back round at the last minute. I've gone on to be very academic and then on to become a writer, which many people say I'm good at. So
You are indeed.
yeah, so it's.
So if you could go back in time to, when you were just doing the maddest thing, going gallivanting and whatnot, what would you have told yourself? Yeah, knowing now what you could tell yourself then. That made sense in my head.
Do you know what I find so fascinating about my younger self? What I find so fascinating is that all of the red flags that were in place. I'm not a stupid person. I still think I regard myself as quite a perceptive person. Self perception and situational perceptional person. That's not an actual term. I've coined it today. But I'm quite good at looking at things regarding myself and looking at situations and understand consequences and consequences and what can lead on from bad situations. And on two occasions, whilst I was getting involved in some stuff, I, I've had guns pulled on me twice. A gun pulled on me twice, and I've almost been stabbed as well. And those red flags were there. They were there. Get off the road, man. Stop trying to do it. This isn't for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if I could go back in time, I'd be like, you want to end up in a box? You want to, you know what I mean? You can't see that these things are happening. These things are telling you that
Yeah.
you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. And if you just plan a little from now, your life could be glorious in the future. Because I tell you one thing, yeah. Me and my friends used to go Oxford Street, go Probito, and there's a shop called Probito back in the day. They sell like Iceberg, Moschino, Versace, all of that sort of stuff. JD Sports, you go and buy like 110 trainers. We used to call the Nike Max 110s or 120s, depicting, like in reference to their price as opposed to what their actual name was. And one day we've all come back from Oxford Street with all of our clothes and our trainers because that was really important. And I say that with inverted commas. And I've come back to my friend's dad's house, and we're sat in my friend's room, listening to music and kind of just chilling out, doing whatever. We're like 16, 15, 16. My friend's dad come in and he said, "You lot spend all your money on trainers and designer clothes. Imagine you took all your money, put it together, and got a deposit together." This is back in 1997, yeah? Think about how cheap houses were back then.
Dirt cheap.
Get a deposit together, buy a house, start with one flat, and I'll help you. And I looked at my friend's dad like he was an absolute nutcase. I'm like, mate, we talk buying a house. I'm 17 years old. What are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. So these are, there were people there that was trying to give me in particular give me the right way to go. But child, man, you don't listen to anything. So yeah, even I'd go back to that point there, and I'd just grab myself around it. We could have been flipping. By now, we could have had. Think of the portfolio we would have had from 1997 if you literally started buying houses then.
Life would look very different.
It could all be different. Probably wouldn't be talking to you now, Matt.
True, so.
Probably be my yacht.
You know what I mean?
Saint-Tropez.
I'm surprised I could reach out to you as it stands right now. So I definitely I wouldn't be able to catch you then. You'd be out there with Elon Musk and then once.
So yeah, man. That's what I'd do. I'd go back and make sure that, those red flags weren't ignored.
And I think it's important that we highlight the fact that these things are visible to us. I read a book, well, audiobook anyway, and it talks about the conscious mind, and it makes a point that although we can see, we're not focused on everything. And I think when you're living in a situation, it's so easy to just see what you see, but you're not focused on what you should be focused on, because it's really hard to see what's going on because you're ravaged by emotions and you're just living off feelings. And it's not a bad thing at times, but you need to obviously have a healthy balance of having your heart take control and your mind takes the control every now and again, just to make sure you're reading the situation accurately. I'm going to go back a little further, but you did mention something about obviously being a loser. Like there's lessons and, you only lose if you die. I would challenge that and say that sometimes you just completed life, your journey, and you haven't lost. You've just come to your completion, your end cycle.
Yeah.
And also there's a phrase that says you learn more from losses than you do from victories. And if you always had a good life,
100%.
always had things handed to you, and if you turn to gold, when things go left instead of going right, you're gonna be caught blindsided and won't know how to deal with it. And that's why, as much as I love my son, I kind of need him to get the scrapes and bumps and stuff now,
100%.
so I could help him with it. Because when he gets older, let's say he's 23, 24, and my guy's lighting it up at work, just being that Mr. Amazing individual, people are not going to like him, and I won't be in a position to be able to help you with that, because if them man want to thump you, you got to hold it down and deal with that, because I ain't going to jail right now. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. So I need you to learn that people are not going to say not like you because you're not a nice person. They're not going to like you because other people like you or love you, and they're going to be begrudging that. So I think it's important that sometimes we are going to go through these things, and you've clearly explained how the journey in terms of like you are in an amazing place right now, but where you was in terms of your grades, the ability you had, the responsibility you had to carve out the future for yourself that you deserve, and you unfortunately was a bit reckless with it, as was I when I was younger, I'm not gonna lie, but you were able to redeem yourself because you had that eureka moment. The penny dropped when you saw your mother cry, and it came from her soul. That was the catalyst for when you finally connected those dots and realized what Patricia said, coupled with this, meant that I had it
Yeah,
all in my control,
yeah,
and I dashed it in the bin.
that's right.
And I think that's important for people to hear.
That's right. I mean, I want to say something to the point you made about your son having to build resilience. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were just having a general conversation, and we got into the topic of just that really. A lot of children are being brought up with a lot of privilege, and it's very dangerous to give children everything that they desire, because I think you've got to find a way for them to build a little bit of resilience, or when they become adults it can be dangerous for them, for their
Yeah.
mental and their spiritual health, because you're gonna get knocked in life, man. No matter what happens, there's gonna be a knock. You're gonna get knocked off your trajectory. There's gonna be people who don't like you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you've got to learn how to be able to deal with that. You know. So, not to say you should send your child out into the wilderness with a knife and bring back a skinned bear and all that sort of stuff, but you've got to find some way of them building some sort of resilience. Because life is not easy.
My desire is that people understand that not every L is a loss. And that's the whole idea behind every L podcast. We are holding ourselves together with staples, with glue, with blue tack, with no more nails or whatever it is. But we're all going through our struggles. We've all been through some certain struggles in life. And there's another phrase that says, you'll never meet a strong person who's had an easy past. And I stand true to that. I think that a lot of us just needs to understand that nothing about our current situation will show us that where we're going to be. You look at a caterpillar has no sign of showing you that's going to be a butterfly. And that's the case with our situation. So we just need to hold firm
That's right.
and just recognize that we have the potential
100%.
to be in a better place than we currently are. Life's all about peaks and troughs. It's no different to riding a bike. The only time you fall off is when you stop moving, and you just got to keep going.
Momentum, man.
But make sure you try and go in the right direction and watch for the red flags. So what I'm going to do is get into the part where we're going to conclude, but I want you to shamelessly plug what's going on, your social, so people can reach out to you, because I
Yes.
think a lot of people want to keep in contact with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said before, I'm an author. And like you alluded to, I wrote chapter 2 in the book Dad, where I talk more in depthly about my childhood growing up without a dad and how it affected my parenting today. Um, I'm also a fictional writer, and I have a book called The Sweat, which is out now. It's part 1 of a 3-part series, and it's about a virus that infects London's population, a large section of UK's population, like 2/3, and it's centered around this Black British family who are now trying to survive in a sort of dystopian London and get out to Brighton, where they promise a bit of salvation. And it's a very different take on survival drama. And I don't call it horror because it's not really horror. It's more of a survival drama, and it just kind of it looks at survival from a Black British perspective as opposed to the perspective we normally get, which is told from a very European lens. So just because the world's in our dystopia, in a dystopian setting, doesn't mean that racism goes away or homophobia goes away or sexism goes away. And do you know what I mean? So all of these things get explored within my book, and it's more like a coming of age, because it's based around this girl, mostly about this girl and her dad trying to find her mum and her brother after they get split. So they're together for a while. They eventually get split, and it's all about her growth, her and her father's growth, and how they go from doing things that they would never thought they would have to do in normal times, in peace times, I would say. and how they kind of evolve into being these real badass characters, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's more than a zombie book. I know that the cover looks like that, but it's not. It's really quite in depth and it's really quite profound, actually.
I have no doubt, because your work has been class and, and rightly praised. So if anyone's interested, please follow Falconer. He will have R.P Falconer. That was quite rude, to apologize. I will put the socials in the show notes, or feel free to share them now. So if anyone's listening, they want to follow you, where they're going.
So that's at RP Falconer on Instagram, at RP Falconer on Twitter, at RP Falconer on Facebook. So yeah, so it's at RP Falconer.
Well, much appreciated for that, and thank you very much for your time. I truly appreciate you sharing.
Oh, we're brothers, man. We're stable mates, man. We're from the
Indeed.
same spot. But Matt, I just want to say, like I've expressed to you before, you're a very good interviewer, and I'll tell you how I know that. You make it feel as if it's just me and you here, and you make me forget that this might go out to thousands upon thousands of people, because I know that this podcast is going to take off. It's going to be amazing, especially with you at the helm, and you've got a very good radio manner. Is that what I want to say? For want of a better phrase or better word. So yeah, you just keep being great, man. Keep being great, Matt.
Thank you. I try.
It's gonna be fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's going to be clipped up and held and put in front of every single episode going forward from now. So that goes without saying. But no, thank you very much. As I said,
give me my £10 later. Yeah, give me my 10 later, mate.
Only 10, mate. I'm sure you just build me with like a few more zeros on the back of that. But yeah, as I said, this isn't for me. This is for other people. I just want it to be a nice hub for people to, whether it be your children, my children, anyone's children, just to have a place where they know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to have those wobbly moments, because we all have them. But just know that your now is not your forever, and that is so important.
That's right.
And also on the other end of the spectrum, you might be in a good place now, but just to understand you have the capability of things going the other way. Just prepare yourself for it.
Very quickly.
But if you're in a place where you're not so great, don't worry about it. A lot of us, if not all of us, have been through that. And how we dealt with it is going to be in different ways. We can't tell you how to do it. We can just tell you to just try and navigate it safely and as healthily as possible. You can come out the other side. And when you do, you'll be all the better for it.
Amen. Amen.
I'm going to leave it there and just say that thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to the listeners listening to this. I'm hoping that this will get more and more traction as time goes on. But to everyone, just remember, not every L is a loss. And nothing about your situation now says that it can't be something better. Your now is not your forever. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention. And please share, like, rate, and just get the word out there, because we're going to have more and more stories.
Peace out, man. Thanks for having me, Matt.